I started with 3 cans from my kitchen that I had saved, washed, and then painted with Snow Owl by Wise Owl. I painted all 3 using my S30 Klingon brush. The paint and the brush can be found at chalkitupfancy.com. And I gave all 3 2 coats. Now, I can't remember the exact sizes of these cans, but the tip is that you want 3 cans, different sizes, and that they fit inside one another. And again, I did do 2 coats. Once I was done and dried, I applied 1 hour enamel clear with a Gen foam brush to all 3 cans. Once done, I allowed that to dry, and it does dry in 1 hour. Once dry, I took a DeWalt drill, battery-operated drill, and put a hole in the top of each can. And I'm going to start with this buffalo plaid napkin, and you want to take the back ply off of your napkin. And I'm going to grab my 1 hour enamel clear and put a coat of the 1 hour enamel all over my can. And while still wet, I'm going to wrap the can with the plaid napkin. Using some cling wrap, I'm going to use this as a barrier between my fingers and the wet napkin to help me smooth out my napkin, smooth out the wrinkles and any bubbles, and this just prevents me from tearing the napkin as it's delicate while it's wet. Once done, I took some more 1 hour enamel and did a top coat all over the napkin that was on my jar. And then you want to concentrate on making the edges wet with the 1 hour enamel, and this allows it to make a clean cut, and you can just tear around the excess that you're not going to be using. The other method you could use is allowing it to dry and then taking a sandpaper and using that to sand off the edges. Either way works fine. I chose to just take it off while everything was still wet. Then you just want to clean up your edges and tidy everything while it's still wet. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry. Then I'm going to take my next can, which would be the medium-sized can, and I have this napkin that I got at Hobby Lobby, and it says, "Rejoice in the Lord always," and it has a really nice border at the bottom. So I'm going to cut out "Rejoice in the Lord always," and then I'm going to cut out a strip of the border across the bottom. And then next, I'm going to take "Rejoice in the Lord always" and cut it up into smaller pieces. Applying the 1 hour enamel again at the bottom of the can, I'm going to add the words "Rejoice in the Lord always," trying to kind of hover close to the bottom of the can, where the opening is. And then once each piece is on, going over it again with some more Wise Owl 1 hour enamel clear and putting that aside to dry. And then my smaller can, again, I'm adding the Wise Owl 1 hour enamel clear, and I'm going to attach the border around the lower part of the opening all the way around the can, and then finish that off again with a coat of the Wise Owl 1 hour enamel. Once everything was dry, I have some floral wire that I'm going to thread through each can. I'm going to use some wooden beads as stoppers. So you're going to thread your first wooden bead, and then you're going to take your smallest can, I will say the skinnier can, and then you're going to thread another bead. And the key is you want each can to not sit directly on the next one, but to hover over it, overlapping one another. I hope that makes sense. So I'm using these wooden beads as stoppers so that it'll only go as far as I choose it to go. Again, you're going to thread your floral wire through the can, and it's going to stop at that wooden bead, as you can see here. And I still have excess coming out of the bottom, and we'll take care of that in a little bit. So now I'm going to put another bead, again, not all the way down to the can, just enough so that the next can hovers over the middle can. And you're just going to take your floral wire and thread it through the bead a second time and cause this little loop so that the bead stops traveling downwards and just stops in that spot. And then I'm going to take my last can, my largest can, thread it through and have it hover over like so. And then you're going to put one last bead at the top. So I grabbed this little wind chime at Dollar General for $1, and I'm using it for parts. And I took the top chain and hook and added it to the top of my largest can, just above the wood bead, so that I had a hanger. For the top of my cans. And this is the wood chime that I bought for $1 at Dollar General, that I took the top hanger off. And now I'm going to use the bottom chimes, detach them, and then I'll put the sun aside for another project. Now I'm taking the floral wire that's hanging out of the bottom smaller can, and I'm threading the floral wire through my chimes, and I want them to be inset just a bit so that they hang out the bottom, and I'm using the floral wire to tie them up and hang just a little bit. And here you go. Now you have this outdoor porch wind chime for your front porch. Very inexpensive, very fun to make. Hope you enjoyed this video. Go check us out at YouTube or chalkitupfancy.com.